feel about the governor's request for work furloughs for state workers, which was just passed yesterday, actually? Would you be in favor of a freeze on pay raises for the state workers? So, actually, James again.
Okay. Well, I think the key issue with the furloughs right now are that you have a situation where the average state worker is paying, literally, for the failure of the legislature and the governor to do their job and to come up with a budget. We often talk about, we're paying for this, we're paying for that. We have individuals who are paying right now for the legislature's failure to do their job. People are scared right now in this economy. And an absence of leadership like what we have in Albany only makes things worse. That in this day and age, furloughing state workers for the foreseeable future for 1 day a week actually counts as leadership and a solution to the problem. And as I mentioned earlier, it's going to take 306 weeks to find a solution to that problem. To me, that's unacceptable, and I suspect that that's unacceptable to everyone here as well. The furlough issue goes to show you that there are two standards. There's one standard for Albany, and there's one standard for everybody else. For those of you who are in the private sector, I ask you, if you unilaterally decide that you're going to dock workers' pay 1 day a week for the foreseeable future, and on top of that, you were required by law to come up with a budget by April 1st, and you had failed to do so, do you think the New York State, the Department of Labor would have a problem with what you were doing? Absolutely. The cameras would be there would be an investigation. But Albany does it, and hey, that's business as usual in Albany. State workers are upset, but a lot of people don't bat an eye because that's what counts as leadership right now in Albany. In addition, the furlough plan has a disproportionate impact on the upstate economy and the economy here in this district. It's easy for legislators downstate and in other areas of the state who don't have a large percentage of state workers in their districts to vote for a furlough plan because it doesn't negatively impact their districts the way it does here. We are punishing people for the failure of the legislature to do their job. How much time? 15 seconds. As far as wage freezes go, I would support a wage freeze right now for state workers. The reason I would do so is that I think it is in the best interest of all state workers to freeze wages. We cannot grow state spending beyond the growth of revenues. We don't want a situation in the future where we are laying off workers to pay for certain people's increases right now. I think it's for the best of all state workers, for the best of the state, to freeze wages right now while we get state spending under control. Thank you.
Well, I too support a wage freeze. However, as I've said since the beginning of being involved in this race in early March, this truly is a leadership problem. And how can you ever ask a state worker to sacrifice when the management side, the legislature, is not sacrificing? It is just unconscionable that you would ask a state worker to be a political pawn in this whole game of just misguided principles of our leaders. It really shows the heart of Albany when we ask our state workers to take a furlough, and yet we have bloated members on different staffs. We have huge staffs. We have appointments that are being made with high-paying jobs. Despite this going on over the last 2 years, we're asking for the unions to take a pay cut, and yet we find appointments, we find raises for the legislature and for the leaders throughout the different agencies. It's just unconscionable that you would even consider that. As a town councilman last year, we had to freeze wages in a town of Half Moon. Although we have a surplus of funds, we know that we have to be proactive and we have to continue to be smart about the money that we have. And so I would never expect, or nor would I ever consider giving someone a pay cut and give myself a pay raise at the same time. It's just unconscionable. It's not a leadership. And that truly shows Albany that we have a leadership problem in Albany. Where's something? 25. Okay. So I've worked in the private sector for many years, and for the past 2 years, the people in my company have not received any raises. And so I do believe that everybody has to have a share in the game here. But the flip side of that is that we've maintained jobs. We haven't had layoffs. And so that is so important in the big picture of things that, although we don't have a pay raise, that, people are working.